this video today is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to dive into a personal story, and I am going to fill you in on the importance and the potency of identity work and self-concept work. So we'll get into those topics as well. My intention for this video is to really help someone out there understand the power of this work and how transformative it can be and how it can literally change your life, because it changed mine for the better in so many ways. I really want to stress that this was my path. This was the way that I recovered and I handled my addiction. This is not going to look the same as everyone's path with addiction. I am in no way, shape, or form giving medical advice. I am just sharing my story, and I am just sharing how powerful self-concept work and identity work can be. So with that said, let's dive in. In my early 20s, I got heavily addicted to pills and alcohol. I made the decision to go to college. And when I was in college, I was introduced to Adderall and Vyvanse. And I was someone up until that point that had always struggled with anxiety, with low self-worth, with confidence issues. And this Adderall was like, when I took it, I felt very confident. I felt very, like, all of those issues kind of were swept away for the time being. So at first, I would just be taking it on a need-to-be basis. Like when I had a big exam coming up, my roommate had a prescription, and so she would give me some. And then it got to the point where I started taking it every day. It got to the point where I got my own prescription, and I was finishing it within like a week of the prescription. So then I would have to go and buy some from other people, and it's really started going downhill from there. The side effects of Adderall after are like paranoia, sleeplessness, anger, and then anxiety comes back. So I would supplement that with weed and alcohol. So I started to get really heavy into alcohol. At first, it would just be on the weekends, and then it started to be like an every night thing, and then it started to be like multiple times a day. And I kind of went down that direction with substances. The problem was I couldn't separate myself from the substance. I thought that I needed it to be okay, to thrive, to whatever I was doing. I thought I really needed it. And so eventually it got to the point where I would be taking Adderall and drinking, and that led me down a lot of trouble. So I ended up wrecking multiple cars, totaling multiple cars. I ended up being arrested multiple times, going to jail multiple times, and it was horrible. But at that point, there was like two sides of me. There was this one side where I was like, you need this, but you need the Adderall to feel confident. You need it to even communicate and talk to people. You need the drink to like numb out and feel better and like not feel anxious. You need this. And this other side of me is like, I don't want to live like this anymore. It was like that soul in me, like fighting to get out of this cage that I had trapped it in. I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to experience life like this anymore. Please let me free. And so these two parts of me were battling, and oftentimes this part of me would win because I really felt like I needed it. So my biggest rock bottom moment, I had multiple, but my biggest rock bottom moment came whenever I totaled my boyfriend's car, and I wound up in jail yet again. And I was just so like, I was sitting there like, this cannot be real. This cannot be my life right now. But it was. And all my choices up to that point had led me to sitting in this cold jail cell, trying to sleep, trying to like figure out how there was a way I could escape, but I couldn't. I had to face the music at that point. It was when I really started to learn and was introduced to this idea of identity work and self-concept work. There was always a part of me that didn't want to identify as an alcoholic or whatever the pill version of that would be, an addict, I guess. there was always a part of me that didn't feel comfortable identifying as that, even though I met all the requirements. Like, I was heavily addicted to this substances, and I just didn't see myself as an alcoholic. So I was looking for alternative routes besides Alcoholics Anonymous, attaching myself to this identity for the rest of my life. So then identity work came in. Identity work is all about reshaping who you are at your very core. At your core. And I always tell people that you are not these labels, you're not these roles, you're not your beliefs, you're not anything that you've taken on throughout your life. You are the consciousness within. You are the awareness that is operating through. So your identity shapes this identity that you take on throughout life that molds you into this person. It shapes your thoughts, it shapes your emotions, it shapes your behaviors, and ultimately it's gonna shape your entire reality. But here's the kicker. You always get to choose. You always get to choose. And these choices turn into patterns. And these patterns turn into programs in our subconscious mind. And that program turns into who we think we are, or what we think we are based on these programs operating. So, an example of identity work. Imagine someone that has always thought they were shy and not confident and not a leader throughout their entire lifetime. This identity could have been shaped from past experiences, from childhood trauma, from teachers, from feedback from others, or childhood conditioning. So to transform that, because that is not them, they are the consciousness within, to transform that, they first must recognize how this identity limits them. They must question, where did this belief even come from, and why am I attaching to that? Who told me I was shy, and what program, why is this programming operating within? Then becomes adopting a new identity. So I am confident and I am expressive. That will then lead to aligned action. Aligned action is what is going to consistently reinforce this new identity, this new pattern, this new programming. So that could be speaking up in meetings or joining a public speaking group, taking actions that are going to show your subconscious, this is who I am now. This is my new identity. Me, with my addiction journey, I had to realize that I am so much more than an addict. I am so much more than an alcoholic, because in my perspective, labels are so powerful. And when someone says, I am an alcoholic, it literally becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. They start to identify with that, instead of separating their self from the habit. Once you separate yourself from the habit and realize you're bigger than the habit, that's where transformation can really take place. So I would look at myself in the mirror and be like, I am someone who used to drink a lot. I am someone who used to pop pills, but I'm free now. I don't need that. I literally don't need anything outside of myself. I am a person that is committed to my health and my well-being. I am someone who makes conscious choices that support my highest self. I had to release that old identity, okay? I had to begin to choose new patterns. If this identity that I am choosing, a confident person who doesn't need anything outside of herself, who is joyful with just being her and her essence and doesn't need substances to feel alive and to feel like herself, I need to step into that new identity. How can I meet those needs in a healthy way? And the first step in that is forgiveness. It really is forgiveness for your past self, and like cutting those cords, those energetic cords and those ties. Because if you don't sit and like actively understand where that version of yourself is coming from and like witness them with compassion and love and grace, then you're never going to let go of that shame. You're never going to let go of that guilt. Okay, so understanding for me that Adderall and alcohol were a coping mechanism, and they were a way to mask my insecurities and to mask that my low self-worth, that understanding that and understanding her gives me I was able to see that version of me through the lens of compassion and the lens of love and the lens of grace. And that allowed the cord to be cut seamlessly. There's not attachment there. There's not that shame. There's not that guilt. There's not that grief. There's just understanding and there's just love. So that is going to be very, very important. And then you stepping into a new identity. Okay. I am someone who values clarity, peace, and health. Bringing in values, like who are you and what do you value? I value my peace, I value my clarity, and I value my health and my well-being, and I value my body. Okay? I am in control of my choices. A powerful thing with creating a new identity is visualizing that person of yourself. So like every morning when you're starting to wake up, or every night when you're going to bed and you're entering those deep brainwave states, you can visualize yourself as the person you want to become. Visualize them without the substances, without anything. That's what I would do, is I would see myself being just joyful and happy in life and just grounded and not feeling anxious, but feeling joy and gratitude and confidence and compassion. All of these things that make this life so deep and make this life so meaningful. Visualization was then programming my subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind, it literally doesn't differentiate between imagination and reality. Okay, it basically sees everything as everything. So what I would do is I would see myself as the version of me who is completely free from addiction. So you can close your eyes, you can see that version of you, walk into them, and then mesh with them, merge with that version of you. And then feeling the emotional state, such as confidence and empowerment, feel it now. Practice feeling it now, okay? Our bodies and our brains are so accustomed to habitual emotions and habitual actions and habitual habits because it conserves energy. But if you start to practice feeling these new emotions, such as gratitude, such as love, such as joy, such as confidence, such as empowerment, such as freedom, your body is going to remember that, and it's going to habitually program that in slowly but surely. Okay? You want to then embody that new version of yourself. So I would practice embodying that new version of self. And I want us to say that it wasn't easy. Like, this is all simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. It's not easy to transform. It's not easy to become a new version of you when you've been programmed and conditioned in these ways. But it will free you, and it freed me. Identity work is more about who you are at the core. Self-concept work is about how you see yourselves in different areas of life. Okay? Self-concept work for me, when it came down to my substance abuse, I would hold these limiting beliefs like I have no control. Like I always relapse. I am weak. I don't deserve a better life. I am an addict. But realizing that those beliefs that I was holding are just that. They were just beliefs. Be a lie. So what lies do I want to tell myself instead of these lies that I'm already feeding myself? Aware that instead of holding the belief that I have no control, beginning to reprogram that to I have the power to make conscious choices. We're changing the way that we see what we believe. We're changing our external perception. We're changing the lens. We're changing the frame here. So I always relapse, instead starting to believe that every day I grow stronger and stronger and stronger, and every day I'm better and better, and every day I'm becoming more myself, free. And if freedom is my biggest value, then why am I chaining myself down to these pills? Why am I chaining myself down to this alcohol? Why am I chaining myself down to anything outside of myself? That's not freedom. That goes against what I value. So do you see how it kind of, one self-concept work, identity work, and value work kind of feeds into each other, and they mesh perfectly, and it starts to make sense and it starts to click. And once it starts to click consciously, then it will click subconsciously, okay? Then these programs and these patterns start coming in place that are actually going to serve you, that are actually going to allow you to be that free version of yourself. Shifting my self-concept around who I am at the core, changing the beliefs and the values that I held for myself, separating myself from any person, place, or thing that was not in my highest good, separating myself from those friendships that aren't friendships anymore because they're on this path and I'm on a different path and those paths just don't mesh, and that's okay. Separating myself from these things allowed me to step into this new way of being and allowed me to free myself. Like, that, genuinely. So this work is so powerful. This work is so potent, and it takes time and it takes effort and it takes consistency. But if you begin to implement self-concept work and identity work into who you want to be, and you realize that you have the power to choose and you are the sovereign one and you are the free one, then your entire life can transform. If this video helped you, please like, please subscribe, please comment down below what identities you want to shift into, what self-concepts you want to bring in for yourself, how you want to transform your life, and let's do it together, okay? I am in the business of transformation, and thank you for tuning in.